The invasion begins. Commander Elena Reyes sat at her command post, the soft hum of the control room's machinery, the only sound in the dimly lit space. The tranquility of the night was shattered by a sudden blip on the radar, a massive unidentified object hurtling toward Earth at incredible speed. Elena's heart skipped a beat as she leaped to her feet, her military training kicking in. "Alert all units! We have an incoming bogey!" Her voice boomed over the intercom, urgency lacing every word. Dr. Marcus Chen, the brilliant scientist, rushed to his station, his eyes wide with alarm as he analyzed the data flooding in. "This is unlike anything we've seen before," he muttered, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "It's not just one ship, it's an entire fleet." Captain Sarah Miller, the fearless pilot, wasted no time as she strapped herself into her fighter jet, her hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "I'm heading out to intercept," she announced, her voice calm and determined. Meanwhile, Jack Thompson, the resourceful engineer, dashed to his workstation, his mind already racing through the possibilities. "We need to reinforce our defenses and prepare for a full-scale assault," he declared, his fingers flying across the keyboard as he initiated emergency protocols. And then there was Orion Blackwood, the enigmatic outsider whose dark eyes flickered with a mixture of determination and uncertainty. He hovered at the edge of the room, silent and watchful, a silent observer in the chaos unfolding around them. As Sarah's jet streaked into the night sky, the air crackled with tension. Alien ships descended from the heavens, their sleek, otherworldly forms casting ominous shadows over the city below. Energy weapons lanced out from the alien vessels, tearing through Earth's defenses with ruthless efficiency. Elena gritted her teeth, her hands clenched into fists as she watched the screens before her, each one a window into the chaos unfolding across the globe. "We're under attack," she shouted, her voice cutting through the cacophony of alarms and warnings. The ground shook as explosions rocked the city outside, sending shockwaves of fear and panic through the populace. But amid the chaos, Elena and her team remained resolute, their determination unshaken. "We can't let them take Earth without a fight," Elena declared, her voice ringing with defiance. "We'll stand our ground and defend our home at all costs." The team exchanged determined glances, a silent understanding passing between them. With the fate of humanity hanging in the balance, they braced themselves for the epic battle that lay ahead. Chapter 2: Gathering Allies. As the chaos of the alien invasion continued to unfold, Commander Elena Reyes knew that Earth's chances of survival hinged on more than just the efforts of her small team. They needed allies, and they needed them fast. Elena gathered her team in the war room, the glow of the monitors casting eerie shadows on their faces. "We can't defeat the aliens alone," she stated, her voice firm. "We need to rally other nations and resistance groups to join the fight." Dr. Marcus Chen nodded in agreement, his mind already racing through potential allies and strategies. "We need to reach out to General Ramirez in South America," he suggested. "His forces are battle-hardened and could provide crucial support." Sarah, her hands still gripped by the tension of aerial combat, added, "And we shouldn't overlook the resistance movements in Asia. Resistance leader Li Wei has been leading the fight against the aliens in that region." Jack's brow furrowed in thought. "But how do we even begin to coordinate with them? Communications are chaotic at best right now." Elena's eyes gleamed with determination. "We'll have to go old school, send out messengers, use whatever means necessary to make contact We can't afford to wait for the bureaucracy to catch up with us. The team sprang into action, each member taking on a different task. Dr. Chen began drafting messages to send to potential allies, carefully crafting each word to convey the urgency of the situation. Sarah coordinated with her fellow pilots to ferry messengers to remote regions, their jets streaking through the skies like shooting stars. Meanwhile, Jack and Orion worked tirelessly to maintain and repair the communication networks, their fingers flying over the controls as they fought against time and technology. Days turned into weeks as the team worked tirelessly to gather allies to their cause. Messages were sent and received, meetings were arranged in secret locations, and alliances were forged in the crucible of war. Finally, the efforts began to bear fruit. General Ramirez pledged the full support of his forces, his soldiers standing ready to join the fight against the alien invaders. Resistance leader Li Wei, likewise, promised to mobilize her fighters and resources in the battle against the common enemy. As the news of their successes spread, a flicker of hope ignited in the hearts of humanity. The tide was turning, and with each new ally that joined their cause, Earth's defenders grew stronger. But even as they celebrated their victories, the team knew that the hardest battles were still to come. The aliens were relentless in their pursuit of conquest, and the fate of humanity still hung in the balance. Chapter 3. Uncovering Secrets. Dr. Marcus Chen furrowed his brow as he pored over the data collected from the latest skirmishes with the alien invaders. There had to be a weakness in their technology, a vulnerability they could exploit to gain the upper hand in the battle for Earth's survival. After days of relentless analysis, Dr. Chen's efforts finally bore fruit. He discovered a subtle flaw in the alien energy shields, a flaw that could potentially be exploited to penetrate their defenses and strike at the heart of their ships. Excited by his discovery, Dr. Chen rushed to share his findings with the rest of the team. "I've found a weakness in the alien shields," he announced, his voice tinged with excitement, "but we'll need more data to fully exploit it." Sarah Miller, ever the daring pilot, immediately saw an opportunity. "I'll lead a mission to retrieve a damaged alien ship for analysis," she declared, her eyes shining with determination. "We need to act fast before they adapt and patch up their defenses." With the plan in place, Sarah assembled a team of elite pilots and technicians to accompany her on the daring mission. They would infiltrate enemy territory, locate a downed alien ship, and retrieve it intact for Dr. Chen to study. The mission was fraught with danger. From the outset, as Sarah's squad flew deep into enemy territory, they encountered fierce resistance from the alien forces. Energy weapons lanced out from the enemy ships, forcing Sarah and her team to weave and dodge through a deadly gauntlet of fire. But Sarah's piloting skills were unmatched, and she led her team through the chaos with precision and determination. They located the downed alien ship, nestled in the heart of a heavily fortified alien base, its sleek hull scarred and damaged from the battle. With enemy forces closing in around them, Sarah and her team sprang into action. They fought their way through the alien defenses, facing wave after wave of enemy troops, determined to protect their fallen comrade. Finally, after a fierce battle, Sarah's team managed to secure the damaged alien ship and extract it from the heart of the enemy base. As they made their daring escape, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction knowing that they had struck a blow against the alien invaders. Back at their base, Dr. Chen eagerly began his analysis of the captured alien ship, his mind buzzing with the possibilities of what they might uncover. With luck, they would find the key to turning the tide of the war in humanity's favor. But little did they know, the aliens were already adapting to their tactics, and the true test of their newfound knowledge was yet to come. Chapter 4. The Race Against Time. With Dr. Marcus Chen's discovery of the weakness in the alien shields, the team knew they had a chance to turn the tide of the war in humanity's favor. But time was of the essence as they raced to develop a weapon based on his findings before the aliens launched their next devastating assault. Jack Thompson, the resourceful engineer, found himself faced with the daunting task of sourcing the necessary materials for the weapon. As he scoured the makeshift workshops and supply depots scattered throughout their base, he realized that time was not the only enemy they faced. The materials they needed were scarce, and what little they could find was often in short supply or of inferior quality. Jack's frustration grew with each setback, but he refused to give up hope. He knew that the fate of humanity depended on their success. With ingenuity born of desperation, Jack and his team began to improvise and adapt, cobbling together makeshift components from whatever scraps they could scrounge up. It was far from ideal, but they had no other choice if they were to have any hope of completing the weapon in time. As the days stretched into weeks, tension mounted within the team. Every passing moment brought them closer to the aliens' next assault, and the pressure to succeed weighed heavily on their shoulders. But despite the obstacles they faced, Jack and his team refused to back down. They worked around the clock, fueled by a determination to see their mission through to the end. Finally, after weeks of tireless effort and sleepless nights, the weapon began to take shape. Jack watched with a mixture of pride and relief as the final components were assembled, each piece fitting together like a puzzle. With the weapon nearing completion, the team braced themselves for the inevitable showdown with the alien invaders. They knew that the fate of humanity hung in the balance, and they were ready to do whatever it took to ensure that Earth remained free. But little did they know, the aliens were already preparing their next move, and the final battle for humanity's survival was about to begin. Chapter 5. Betrayal. The atmosphere in the command center was tense as the team made final preparations for the impending alien attack. But amidst the flurry of activity, there was an underlying sense of unease, a feeling that something was amiss. Orion Blackwood, the mysterious outsider with a hidden past, had always been an enigma to the rest of the team. His quiet demeanor and solitary nature had raised suspicions from the beginning, but until now they had been willing to overlook his past in favor of his contributions to the cause. But as tensions reached a boiling point, Orion's past caught up with him in the most unexpected way. A former ally, thought long dead, emerged from the shadows, revealing himself to be alive and well, and working for the aliens. The team watched in shock as their former comrade turned traitor, his allegiance to the aliens laid bare for all to see. Orion stood frozen, his eyes wide with disbelief and horror as the magnitude of the betrayal sank in. Elena Reyes, ever the stalwart leader, wasted no time in confronting the traitor in their midst. "How could you betray us like this?" she demanded, her voice cold and steely with anger. But Orion remained silent, his gaze fixed on the floor as shame washed over him. He had thought he could outrun his past, bury it deep beneath the surface where no one would find it. But now, faced with the consequences of his actions, he realized that running had only brought him closer to the truth. The team was divided, torn between anger and disbelief at the betrayal of one of their own. But even as they grappled with the shock of the revelation, they knew they couldn't afford to let it distract them from the task at hand. With the alien attack looming ever closer, the team had to put aside their differences and focus on the fight ahead. They had come too far to let one betrayal undo all they had accomplished. But as they prepared to face the aliens once more, a shadow of doubt lingered in the back of their minds. Could they truly trust each other in the face of such overwhelming odds? Or would the spectre of betrayal haunt them until the very end? Chapter 6. The Last Stand. The air crackled with tension as Commander Elena Reyes surveyed the chaos unfolding before her. The alien assault had begun in earnest, their forces descending upon Earth's remaining defenses with merciless efficiency. Elena's heart pounded in her chest as she watched the screens before her, each one a grim reminder of the stakes they faced. The aliens had caught them off guard, their numbers overwhelming the resistance forces stationed around the globe. "We're being overrun!" one of the soldiers shouted, his voice trembling with fear as he relayed the grim news. Elena gritted her teeth, her mind racing as she weighed their options. Retreat was tempting, a chance to regroup and reassess their strategy in the face of overwhelming odds, but she knew that every moment they spent retreating was a moment lost in the race to complete the weapon that could turn the tide of the war. With a heavy heart, Elena made her decision. "We make our stand here," she declared, her voice ringing out with authority. "We'll buy our scientists the time they need to finish the weapon. Hold the line at all costs." The soldiers rallied around her, their determination renewed by their leader's unwavering resolve. They braced themselves for the onslaught, their weapons primed and ready as the alien forces closed in around them. The battle that followed was fierce and brutal, a desperate struggle for survival against an enemy that showed no mercy. Wave after wave of alien troops surged forward, their relentless advance pushing Earth's defenders to their limits. But despite the odds stacked against them, Elena and her soldiers fought with courage and determination. They refused to yield even an inch of ground, their resolve unshaken by the ferocity of the alien assault. As the battle raged on, Elena couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in her soldiers. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they fought with the tenacity of lions, their spirits unbroken by the adversity they faced. But even as they held the line, Elena knew that time was running out. The weapon they had been racing to complete was still not ready, and with each passing moment, the aliens drew closer to victory. With a heavy heart, Elena knew that their last stand may well be their final act of defiance against the alien invaders. But she was determined to make it count, to show the world that even in the face of impossible odds, humanity would never surrender without a fight. Chapter 7. Desperate Measures. As the alien onslaught continued to batter Earth's defenses, the team knew they had to take desperate measures to turn the tide of the war. With the completion of the weapon still uncertain, they decided to launch a daring raid on the alien Mothership to buy precious time for its deployment. Sarah Miller, the fearless pilot, stepped forward to lead the mission. She assembled a team of the best pilots Earth had to offer, each one ready to risk everything for a chance at victory. The air crackled with tension as Sarah and her team boarded their fighter jets, their engines roaring to life as they prepared to breach the alien defenses and infiltrate the Mothership. They knew the risks they faced, but they also knew that the fate of humanity hung in the balance. As they streaked through the sky, dodging enemy fire and weaving through a deadly maze of alien ships, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of exhilaration coursing through her veins. This was what she lived for, the thrill of the chase, the adrenaline rush of combat. But amidst the chaos of battle, there was also a nagging sense of doubt. What if they couldn't make it past the alien defenses? What if they were walking into a trap? Sarah pushed aside her doubts, focusing instead on the task at hand. They had come too far to turn back now, and failure was not an option. With nerves of steel and unwavering determination, Sarah led her team deeper into enemy territory, their jets streaking through the darkness like shooting stars. They faced wave after wave of enemy fighters, their weapons blazing as they fought tooth and nail for every inch of ground. But despite the odds stacked against them, Sarah and her team pressed on, their eyes fixed on the prize that awaited them, the alien mothership looming like a dark spectre on the horizon. As they closed in on their target, Sarah knew that the hardest part was yet to come. The alien defenses would be fierce, their security measures formidable. But she also knew that they had one thing the aliens didn't: determination and a willingness to do whatever it took to ensure humanity's survival. With a silent prayer on her lips, Sarah led her team into the heart of the alien mothership, their fate hanging in the balance as they prepared to face their greatest challenge yet. Chapter 8, Showdown. Inside the belly of the alien mothership, the team found themselves surrounded by the eerie glow of alien technology. The air hummed with energy as they pressed forward, their hearts pounding with anticipation of what lay ahead. Sarah Miller led the charge, her pilots following closely behind as they navigated the labyrinthine corridors of the mothership. Every step brought them closer to their objective, the alien leader who held the key to Earth's fate. Suddenly, they rounded a corner and came face to face with their adversary. The alien leader stood before them, a towering figure clad in gleaming armor, its eyes burning with malice as it surveyed its intruders. With a roar of defiance, Sarah and her team launched into action, their weapons blazing as they unleashed a torrent of firepower upon the alien forces. The air was filled with the sound of lasers and explosions as they fought tooth and nail for every inch of ground. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Dr. Marcus Chen and Jack Thompson worked frantically to deploy the weapon they had spent weeks creating. With time running out and the alien assault showing no signs of abating, they knew that failure was not an option. Sweat beaded on their brows as they raced against the clock, their fingers flying over the controls as they struggled to bring the weapon online. Every second felt like an eternity as they battled against the alien technology, their nerves fraying with each passing moment. But despite the odds stacked against them, Dr. Chen and Jack refused to give up. With a final push, they activated the weapon, unleashing its devastating power upon the alien forces with a blinding flash of light. Back inside the mothership, Sarah and her team watched in awe as the alien forces faltered, their ranks decimated by the power of the weapon. With a triumphant roar, they pressed their advantage, driving the remaining aliens back with renewed determination. But their victory was short-lived, as the alien leader rose once more, its fury undiminished by the destruction of its forces. With a roar that shook the very foundations of the mothership, it launched itself at Sarah and her team, determined to claim victory at any cost. As the two sides clashed in a final, desperate battle, the fate of humanity hung in the balance. With the weapon deployed and the alien forces on the retreat, victory seemed within reach. But as the battle raged on, Sarah and her team knew that the true test of their resolve was yet to come. Chapter 9. Redemption. As the battle raged on inside the alien mothership, Orion Blackwood found himself face to face with his former ally turned enemy. The air crackled with tension as the two adversaries locked eyes, each one keenly aware of the stakes of their confrontation. Orion's heart pounded in his chest as memories of his past came flooding back, the mistakes he had made, the choices that had led him down this path. But in that moment, he knew that redemption was within his grasp, if only he had the courage to seize it. With a determined resolve, Orion stepped forward, his voice steady, despite the fear that gnawed at his insides. "I know what I must do," he declared, his words echoing through the chamber. His former ally regarded him with a mixture of surprise and disdain, his eyes narrowing with suspicion. "And what, pray tell, do you think you can accomplish?" he sneered, his voice dripping with malice. But Orion remained undeterred. With a final glance at his comrades, he charged forward, his heart filled with a sense of purpose he had not felt in years. He knew that this was his chance to make amends, to redeem himself in the eyes of those he had wronged. As he reached the heart of the mothership, Orion found himself faced with a decision that would seal his fate. With a grim determination, he activated the self-destruct sequence, knowing that it was the only way to ensure the weapon would be successfully deployed. As the countdown began, Orion felt a sense of peace wash over him. He had made his choice, and he would see it through to the end, no matter the cost. Back on Earth, the team watched in horror as the alien mothership erupted in a blinding flash of light, the explosion tearing through the fabric of space and time. For a moment, all was silent, as if the world held its breath in anticipation of what was to come. Then, with a deafening roar, the shockwave hit, shaking the very foundations of the earth as it rippled outwards in all directions. The ground trembled beneath their feet as they struggled to maintain their footing, their hearts heavy with grief for their fallen comrade. But even as they mourned his loss, they knew that Orion had not died in vain. His sacrifice had bought them precious time they would use to finish the fight he had started. With renewed determination, the team vowed to honor Orion's memory by pressing on, by finishing the fight he had begun. For though he may have fallen, his legacy would live on in the hearts of those who had fought alongside him. Chapter 10. The Final Countdown. With the weapon successfully deployed and the alien threat momentarily neutralized, the team's focus shifted to the task of evacuating Earth's remaining population before it was too late. Time was of the essence as they raced against the clock to save as many lives as possible. Sarah Miller, her heart heavy with the weight of responsibility, stepped forward to lead the daring rescue mission. She assembled a team of brave volunteers, each one prepared to risk everything for the chance to save their fellow humans. Their first stop was a heavily infested area where survivors were stranded and in desperate need of assistance. As they flew into the heart of the danger zone, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of apprehension gnawing at her insides. The aliens may have been temporarily incapacitated, but she knew they couldn't afford to let their guard down for a moment. As they touched down amidst the ruins of what was once a bustling city, Sarah and her team sprang into action. They searched tirelessly for survivors, their hearts sinking with each empty building they encountered. But just when all hope seemed lost, they heard the faint cries of trapped civilians emanating from a collapsed building. Without hesitation, Sora and her team rushed to the scene, their determination unwavering despite the danger that lurked around every corner. With grit and determination, they worked together to clear away the debris and rescue the trapped survivors, their adrenaline-fueled efforts paying off as they pulled the last person to safety just as the building began to crumble around them. But their mission was far from over. As they moved on to the next area in need of rescue, they encountered fierce resistance from the alien forces, who were determined to prevent them from completing their mission at any cost. Sarah and her team fought valiantly against the alien onslaught, their weapons blazing as they pushed forward, refusing to let anything stand in their way. With each rescued survivor, their resolve grew stronger, fueled by the knowledge that they were making a difference in the face of overwhelming odds. As they continued their rescue mission, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in her team. They had faced unimaginable challenges and come out victorious, their courage and determination shining like beacons of hope in the darkness of despair. But even as they celebrated their successes, Sarah knew that their work was far from over. With the fate of humanity still hanging in the balance, they would continue to fight until every last survivor was safe and the alien threat was vanquished once and for all. And with that resolve burning bright in their hearts, they pressed on, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead in the final countdown to victory. Chapter 11. The Last Stand. As the alien forces mounted a final, desperate assault on Earth's last stronghold, Commander Elena Reyes stood at the forefront of humanity's defense, her eyes blazing with determination. This was the moment they had been preparing for, the culmination of all their efforts and sacrifices. With the fate of humanity hanging in the balance, Elena rallied Earth's forces, her voice ringing out like a clarion call in the chaos of battle. "This is our moment," she declared, her words carrying across the battlefield. "We will not back down. We will not surrender. Today, we fight for our very survival." The air crackled with tension as the two sides clashed in a fierce and brutal battle, the ground shaking beneath their feet with the force of their onslaught. The alien forces were relentless, their numbers seemingly endless as they surged forward with reckless abandon. But Earth's defenders were equally determined, their spirits unbroken, despite the overwhelming odds stacked against them. They fought with courage and tenacity, their weapons blazing as they held the line against the alien onslaught. Among them stood Sarah Miller, her heart pounding with adrenaline as she led her fellow pilots into the fray. Together they weaved through the skies like avenging angels, their jets streaking through the clouds as they engaged the enemy with precision and skill. But as the battle raged on, it became increasingly clear that victory would not come easily. The aliens fought with a ferocity born of desperation, their sheer numbers threatening to overwhelm Earth's defenses at every turn. Yet still, the team refused to give up hope. With each passing moment, they drew strength from one another, their bonds forged in the crucible of war stronger than any weapon. As the sun began to set on the battlefield, casting long shadows across the scarred landscape, Elena knew that their time was running out. But even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds, she refused to give up. With a steely determination, she led Earth's forces in one final, desperate charge against the alien invaders, their battle cries echoing across the battlefield as they fought with everything they had. And as the dust settled and the smoke cleared, a hush fell over the battlefield The alien forces lay vanquished, their ranks decimated by the sheer force of humanity's will. But the victory came at a heavy cost. As Elena surveyed the devastation around her, her heart heavy with grief for the fallen, she knew that their fight was far from over. Yet still, she could not help but feel a glimmer of hope. For in the face of overwhelming odds, humanity had stood united, refusing to back down in the face of adversity. And as long as that spirit endured, there was still hope for the future. Chapter 12. Victory and Sacrifice. As the dust settled on the battlefield, Commander Elena Reyes stood amidst the wreckage, her heart heavy with both grief and relief. The final showdown had come to an end, and Earth's forces had emerged victorious against the alien horde. With a sense of finality, Elena gave the order to deploy the weapon they had spent so long preparing. Dr. Marcus Chen and Jack Thompson worked tirelessly to activate the device, their fingers flying over the controls as they prepared to unleash its devastating power. The air crackled with energy as the weapon came to life, its power surging through the air like a tidal wave. With a deafening roar, it unleashed its fury upon the remaining alien forces, tearing through their ranks with unstoppable force. The alien horde stood no chance against the might of Earth's final weapon. Wave after wave of enemy ships were obliterated in a blinding flash of light, their once mighty forces reduced to nothing more than ashes and debris. But victory came at a heavy cost. As the smoke cleared and the dust settled, the team surveyed the battlefield, their hearts heavy with grief for the fallen. Among them stood Orion Blackwood, his sacrifice not forgotten, as they mourned the loss of their fallen comrade. With tears in their eyes and heavy hearts, they gathered around Orion's final resting place, their heads bowed in a moment of silent tribute. He had given everything for the chance at victory, and they would never forget the sacrifice he had made. But despite the pain of their loss, there was also a sense of hope in the air. For in the face of overwhelming odds, humanity had stood united, refusing to back down in the face of adversity. As they surveyed the wreckage around them, Elena felt a renewed sense of determination burning in her chest. Yes, they had suffered losses, but they had also emerged victorious against all odds. And with that victory came the promise of a brighter tomorrow. Together, they would rebuild their shattered world, forging a new future from the ashes of the old. And though the road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, they would face it together, united in their determination to ensure that the sacrifices of those who had fallen would never be forgotten. As the sun began to rise on a new day, Elena and her team stood tall, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, for though they had faced the darkest of days, they had emerged stronger, wiser, and more united than ever before. And as they looked towards the horizon, they knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it together as one.